What is up, guys? We are live with patch 7.32, and I wanted to give you my take on it. I've read through the whole notes, for the most part, and I wanted to give you my thoughts, not on like every little change, I don't care about that, but kind of the bigger overall changes that we're going to see from my perspective, and maybe I'll be wrong. I'll touch on the bigger like hero buffs and nerfs. I'm not gonna go through all of them, and then also just touch on a couple things that I thought were like funny or looked really fun. So let's get into it. All right, so in terms of overall changes, there was a change in XP required per level, and it now takes basically slightly more XP to get to the same levels as before. And this varies. So like at level 2, you need like 10 more XP, which might mean that you like hit your level 2 timing one creep later, which could end up being one whole wave later if it's not on the last creep of the wave before. I'm not running the exact numbers. Patch just came out. It looks like around level 9 it's about the same, but then as you progress further in the game, you can see like level 18, right? It's like a big difference, like 500 XP almost difference. So what this tells me is the game's going to slow down a little unless this XP needing more XP is like offset somewhere else. The only other XP change is to the streak experience, which basically is that you get slightly more XP when heroes have like a 5 or longer streak. So this will matter more, I think, just in terms of like the comeback factor of like killing like a huge enemy hero like later on into the game, and it's probably not gonna have a lot of impact early game, honestly. So overall, I don't think there's enough like XP offset here to like offset this change required per level. So that tells me that like heroes will just get levels a little bit slower. So maybe the game's going to be slowed down a little bit. And to coincide with that change is actually this passive gold per minute decreased by 15%. Not nothing, that's pretty notable. And also the remove small camps near the mid lane. Obviously that has huge implications for the mid lane itself. But just map-wise, there's literally just going to be less gold on the map. That small camp will no longer be spawning. They didn't replace it with a different camp. So there's less gold in terms of 2 less camps for the entire game. There's less passive gold, and you need more XP to get to a higher level. So that tells me that they're trying to like slow the game down a little bit. It's probably not going to be a lot. I imagine, though, that like the average like time of a game is going to go up. It's not going to go up like 5 minutes, right? The average is probably going to go up like a minute maybe, or 30 seconds. But like, you might see some longer games on average. It'll take longer to get to those critical thresholds. And kind of a theme for me, what I saw from these general updates, I've got like TI in mind, obviously, and obviously Valve does too, right? TI is coming. Like, what do they want to see in these games at TI? Maybe slightly longer games, and maybe games with more comebacks, right? This streak experience, if you kill a big hero, you get a lot more XP for it later in the game. And the other thing that tells me maybe some more entertaining comeback games is that the Ancient's armor, the armor of the Ancient building in your base, increased by 10, so increased by a lot, harder to kill the Ancient, and the backdoor HP regen protection is increased. So you can't like just backdoor it or like, squeak it out like right at the end. So maybe that plays into a little more comeback potential. We'll see. Or maybe it's just nerfing backdoor a lot. I didn't think backdoor was a huge problem, but we'll see. We'll see. The other thing is this glyph change. So now it's refreshed whenever the first tower of each tier falls. And what this means is that it's going to make it harder to like get serious objectives or damage to the enemy base off of like one sustained push. So like say your team got Roshan, right, and you're really ahead. You can even think of like the pro scene where it's like, okay, we've got our Roshan, right? It's like, what if we want to take a tier 2 and then a tier 3 and then your Rax, right? Like we're really strong right now. Well, okay, if it's the first tier 2 that you've taken, the glyph's going to reset. So then they're going to have a glyph for the tier 3. And then once you take that tier 3, the glyph's going to reset again if they want a glyph for their Rax. Or if they don't want a glyph for the first set of Rax, it's going to make it harder to get the second set of Rax if you just killed the tier 3 and got the first set, to then go take a second set of Rax means they're going to have another glyph up. So it's going to delay the game in that sense as well. So just to talk real quick about what the small camp might mean for mid laners. I'm not a mid laner, so I'm not going to have the definitive answer on this. But Obviously, it nerfs any hero to some extent that like regularly farmed their small camp, you know, every minute. You know, whether it's like Puck, Kunkka, you know, a Necro maybe, Caudle, any of these heroes that are like regularly farming this small camp. You know, there's more Lina, Lesh. You know, I go on, right? But it kind of nerfs any of these heroes, and maybe in a sense slightly buffs any mid heroes that didn't want to go kill that camp or weren't as good as going to kill that camp all the time. So maybe it could just introduce a bigger variance in the terms of heroes we might see in mid, although they didn't change the water runes at all, so in that sense it didn't change. But like, there's also less things to be using the regen on, because you're not like killing the small camp and like presumably using mana or taking damage to do it. The other thing is that, you know, the mid laner's XP overall is going to be lower. Not only in like this XP change required per level, they need more XP to get to the higher levels, or to any level, to level 6 you need more XP, and then you're not even getting your small camp. So like, that's really going to slow down the mid laners a lot. So think about that in terms of like how the game is going to change. Like, I'm not going to tell you right now what that means for like the meta moving forward, but it's something to keep in mind. Another thing I think that means for the mid laners is that you might see more mid lane dominators come back, where like if you're just getting all the creeps in the lane, the enemy has very little recourse at this point, right? Before, if you were getting stomped in your lane, you could kind of go do the small camp and wait for them to shove it into you. But now if the enemy mid laner like statics the wave on his high ground, you have very little options to recover. There's no small camp. What are you going to do? So I think this means that lane dominators are going to see a comeback. Maybe this is Viper, although Viper got nerfed. Maybe it's Razor, although Razor got nerfed. Maybe even like Queen of Pain. I think Shadow Fiend. Shadow Fiend got an interesting buff that could play into this. So I think the mid lane, I think what we're going to see in the mid lane is definitely going to change a lot. Just the whole meta around the mid lane, I think, is probably going to change in some sense. And it'll be really interesting to see how that develops. Alright, real quick, I want to talk about the change, rework the trees around dire main jungles, rightmost medium camp. I'll show you guys what that looks like real quick. I'm just going to jump into some live game that's going, and we're just going to take a look. Alright, so here is the jungle change. So you can see that the dire still has their cliff, but now this ramp goes way backwards. And these trees got changed, so now if you're farming this camp, you can't like see down the ramp very easily, whereas before you kind of could, but these trees are in the way. Sure, you can cut them, but it matters. These camps are also further apart, and these two camps are also further apart, which kind of nerfs the dire advantage that, in some sense, we'll see by how much. And the outpost is a little further back as well. It also takes longer to TP to the outpost, which, you know, kind of nerfs the dire with respect to being able to TP into the Roshan. Other than that, Roshan received no other changes. Nothing changed about the pit, nothing changed about the Aegis, nothing changed about the items that dropped. So, in that sense, I don't think the overall meta of the game is significantly going to shift. Like, in terms of how they play, like, the heroes will change for sure based on the buffs and nerfs that happened. But teams are still going to be focused on playing around the pit. I still think it's probably slightly more dire favored, even with the camps being slightly less good. We'll see. But I don't think that, you know, overall, I was hoping for kind of like some different Roshan nerfs, like maybe decrease the amount of time that the Aegis lasted, or, you know, change up the Rosh respawn timer, or, you know, something like that. But maybe with the glyphs, like the glyph functionality combined with, well, combined with nothing really. We're still going to be playing around Roshan for sure. Pushes will be a little bit harder, but nothing big in that respect. That's kind of something I was like hoping to see, and we really didn't, but just wanted to mention it. In terms of item changes, you know, one of the biggest ones is BKB has a 50 mana cost. This obviously buffs any mana burning heroes in some sense, like PL, AM. AM got a lot of other buffs. Invoker, Lion, Nyx, any hero that burns mana, like, they are now just stronger inherently against BKB because sometimes they'll get you out of mana before you can pop it, right? I think in general, this... Is it going to be a big change? Like, yes, kind of, but like in a sense, what it mainly does is it gives teams another way to handle a hero that has BKB. You don't just have to kite it out, you know, you could also try and like burn all their mana before they can get it off. Like, that's just like a viable way to deal with a hero that has BKB. Is it going to be too much? Is it going to change a ton? Maybe. Like, I don't know. I don't want to overreact to this change, but it could be hugely impactful. We'll see. The other item buffs I wanted to talk about, there's a couple small things, nothing super notable that I want to mention because I don't want to make this super long. But Refresher Orb, the mana cost was increased slightly and the cooldown was increased. Refresher Shard now is a 200 mana cost. That's pretty huge because before it was free, which is insanely good. Now it's got a 200 mana cost. Probably not going to change a ton, but just notable. And then the Ex Machina regen tier 5 item, or the refresh tier 5 item, has a 350 mana cost. You know, late game, probably not going to matter too much, the mana cost, but maybe it will. You know, you never know. So those items got mana cost increases. A couple other like items added, removed. You know, you can go check it out for yourself if you want to see these exact details. I'm just trying to cover, you know, what I think is like kind of the more important things. That was all the gameplay updates that I had. Now I'll talk about some hero notable like buffs, nerfs, and then things that I think are really cool. So AM, I think, definitely did get a significant buff. His mana cost decreased on the blink, his range increased on the blink, his cooldown decreased on the blink, and his mana cost also decreased on the spell shield. The BKB mana nerf comes to mind. So, you know, overall, just some nice buffs. Is this going to be enough to make him viable? I don't know. It's probably going to depend more on like what heroes are strong in the meta, and is AM good against those heroes, right? I don't think this hero is necessarily going to define the meta moving forward because we didn't see any like significant ways that like the map might change. I think I wrapped up everything I was going to say about AM. The main thing I was closing with was that I don't think anti-mage is going to really define the meta because, as I discussed with like kind of the whole Roshan lack of changes there, even with the Dire Jungle slightly changing, nothing about the importance of Roshan changed. So I hear like AM doesn't really change in regards to like how the map was played. Like one of the reasons he's weak is because he doesn't like play for Roshan well, which is so important. So unless he's picked to like counter specific heroes, I don't think he's going to be like meta defining in himself, even though he received some nice buffs. And maybe I'll be wrong. We'll see. The next hero I wanted to mention is Disruptor. He didn't get many changes. He just got one. His Glimpse now does damage. And at max level, it does a lot. It does 300. And also he has a level 15 talent that does an extra 250 max Glimpse damage now. So at level 15, a max range Glimpse does 550 magic damage. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if that's going to change the hero. What's the cooldown on Glimpse? It is on an 18-second cooldown, so, you know, maybe 550 damage every 18 seconds coming to a pub near you. We'll see. All right, this next hero, Earthshaker, a little bit biased. The changes aren't too big, but we are in TI season. Earthshaker sees a lot of TI play, and they decrease the cooldown on Fissure at early levels, which is nice. Maybe you leave a value point and go for, like, you know, more of a max E build. Maybe it buffs core Earthshaker a little bit because you can leave it at a value point. They also increased the level 10 Fissure damage by 10 and the level 10 base damage by 10 as well. So maybe also indicating more of a core option. I just like to play Earthshaker, so I think it's cool that he got buffs. Good for me. All right, this is actually, I think, one of going to be the most notable buffs of the patch. Omni Knight's Heavenly Disgrace now dispels both Omni Knight and his target. Dispels are like so important because so much shit is dispellable in this game. So giving a free dispel to you and your ally every time you're casting Heavenly Grace on top of what it already did, like with giving the status resistance and stuff, is just kind of nuts. They also decreased the mana cost and increased the damage of his Hammer of Purity, which was already kind of annoying to lane against. So I think Omni's making a comeback. I don't think that's that hot of a take. I think anybody else that reads this that knows a lot about Dota and like dispels would agree. So, you know, I'm not a big fan of this hero personally. Can't say I love it, but I think we're going to see a lot of Omni Knight coming up soon. All right, the next hero I wanted to talk about is Shadow Fiend. This hero's base damage was increased by 2, which is significant because this hero like kind of snowballs a little bit off early last hits. And his Shadow Raise debuff now applies a stackable turn speed and movement speed slow per consecutive stacks. Now, if you're somebody like me that constantly gets triple raised because I'm bad, and this is why I don't play mid, is because Shadow Fiend as a hero exists, my win rate against Shadow Fiend is horrendous if I'm playing mid. If I'm not playing mid, it's usually fine, but I cannot lane against this hero to save my life, and because of what I said about like the mid lane changes and like being dominated really leaves you with no options, I feel like SF's going to see a comeback. Look for this hero at TI. I think it'd be pretty cool because we just haven't had a patch with them in a while. I think it's kind of a cool hero conceptually, even though I hate playing against it if I try and play mid. But look for this. that's a pretty cool change and can really play into this like lane dominator mid meta that might develop, like I said. Or maybe it won't, because I'm not a mid player and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Alright, the next hero I want to talk about is Slardar. This hero got buffs to HP and armor while in water at all. Now it's just passive when he's in water, he gets it. It's like the ocean heart, but like all the time when you're in water. And now he gets a small puddle every time he slithering crushes. This hero got some buffs, and he got some buffs last patch. I like to play this hero off lane. I think he's pretty viable off lane now for the most part. And I even think he could be seen mid if you see your matchup. Like, yeah, if you pick this and you're into, like, the new SF, right? You're probably going to have a bad time. But if you see that the enemy picked a melee mid hero, right? Like Tiny or Ember Spirit or something, I feel like picking Slardar mid could be decent, right? No hero you play against is going to be getting like the small camp over you, right? Because there is no small camp, so they can't get that edge on you if they had it and you are a hero that doesn't really want to farm that. And he just gets this passive HP regen while in the water, which is like the mid lane has the water, right? So maybe I'm crazy, but maybe you can pick Slardar mid into certain matchups when you see it and have it work out. I don't know. Alright, I do think that Sven is going to make a comeback. This hero got buffs across the board. Base health regen increased. The Scepter has an auto cast, so you don't have to travel with your hammer anymore. I feel like it's kind of a big deal, because now like the item doesn't feel bad to get sometimes. Warcry was slightly buffed. Increased duration, decreased mana cost, and God's Strength cooldown was buffed, which is like a big reason that this hero kind of got nerfed back when he was strong. And we already saw at the Arlington Major that, you know, good teams were picking Sven sometimes. So I think this hero's going to see a comeback. And, yeah, look forward to some Sven. It's my prediction. We're going to see some Sven. I also think we're going to see a couple more Terrorblade pickups, maybe from EG. He did get some buffs to turn rate, base health regen, mana cost on Sunder's reduced. So, you know, instead of EG getting like 13th, 14th at TI, look to see him get like maybe 8, 9. You heard it here first. Alright, and the last hero I want to talk about in terms of buffs, and this is not all the buffs that you're going to hear about, there are other buffs, I did not cover every single one, is Venge. She got some really nice just quality of life changes. Her cast range on her magic missile is 650 at level 1 now. That's pretty nice. And the damage on Wave of Terror went up to 85 at level 1. So you can really easily secure like range creeps or last hits or whatever. So I think that's just nice in general. And we got some nice talent buffs too. So a plus 150 Nether Swap enemy damage talent at level 10 just adds like a damage combo. And you also get extra magic missile cast range possibly if you're like going more the support route. So I just think these are some nice buffs that might make her like actually viable as a support again. Because I think she's been kind of trash for a while, which kind of sucks because I like this hero. So I think Venge is probably viable again with these buffs. Maybe it's not like the top meta hero, but I don't think it's like bad anymore. Try it out. Alright, now we're going to talk about some nerfs. They nerfed my boy Bane. They took away his like level 10 like tankiness talent, so he could take either magic resist or 5 armor. Both of these were really good, and like just depending on the game you win, you got one or the other, and it just made you so hard to kill. And they took away both of these, so now you have 20% enfeeble cast range reduction, which is like, it sounds good, but I've never seen enfeeble cast range reduction have impact. Maybe it will now that you can like, it's like a crazy amount with like what it normally is stacking with this talent now. But, you know, I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. And then this like Nightmare heals Bane. The slight damage Nightmare does like gives you some health back, and when you attack then it gives you some health back. I think that's trash. Like I have no idea what the talent... What? I think it's trash. So Bane got nerfed. Not huge. Didn't like change how the hero works or anything, but these talents were actually really nice as like a Bane spammer, and I'm really sad to see them both gone. Alright, I'll just mention Bristle. All this hero's numbers got tweaked down. I don't know if he's still viable or not. It'll kind of just depend on how the numbers all add up and if it like feels good or not. But like he kind of got tweaked down in every category in terms of like damage. Like all of his damage numbers got slightly tweaked down. So probably not going to be as strong as he was. Might not even be meta anymore depending on how kind of it plays out. I'm not a Bristle player, so I can't say for myself, but You know, look for this hero to be less popular, if not completely gone. All right, next hero we wanted to talk about is Death Prophet. Base movement speed decreased from 325 to 285. That is like the biggest movement speed nerf all at once that I've ever seen in my life. I don't think you can lane this hero as like an offlaner anymore. I think it's worse as a support. I don't know, this hero might be dead. You do get a movement speed buff during Exorcism, so like maybe if anything this shoves the hero back to mid where the move speed's not as important, and then like once you're using Exo then it doesn't matter as much. You kind of like get it back during Exo. But yeah, this is like huge. It's kind of like it's just so easy to kill you in a side lane now. Like people just run you down. It's not a big deal. And like, you know, your Siphon, Shard, Fear relies on like staying in range, and now you don't have that unless Exo's going. So pretty big nerfs to DP. I didn't think she was that popular. I know she was getting some play at the Arlington Major, but I don't know. This is pretty huge. That's so much move speed. It's like 40 move speed. So might not see this hero anymore at all. I really don't know. All right, popular hero, my boy Pudge. The only reason I'll mention this is he got slight nerfs, but I don't think it's enough to like remove his viability. There's just very slight tweaks down, which I kind of like. I didn't want to see this hero like destroyed and not seen at all. I hope we still see him at TI. I think it's really fun to watch pros play this as like a pause 1. So still viable. I hope. We'll see. All right, Razor. I've been spamming this hero for some easy offlane MMR, but they nerfed his movement speed by 10, which blows, and they've reduced the buff duration on Link at early levels by a lot, down to 9 seconds at level 1. This is pretty huge because, like, this is kind of how you secured last hits on Razor. His base damage is not that great, and his animation is really weird. So, like, having this extra damage to then use to CS and deny is kind of how you got a good advantage, and now it's, like, it's just a lot less effective. You lose the Link buff so fast now. At max level, it's still the same. So, you know, if you can get there, great. But I don't know. Especially with the move speed buff, this hero is just not as strong in lane anymore. Maybe it'll be better in the mid lane, like I said, as a lane dominator, unless as like an off laner, because 280 move speed and then just not keeping the damage for very long just makes you not as scary of an offlaner. It really doesn't. So we'll see if this hero gets picked up at all, or maybe this just kills them all together. I'm not sure. All right, we'll also mention Viper, one of the most popular heroes of the last patch as well. And he got his mana nerfed to poison attack. Now it costs 24 per attack at level 1. And if you play Viper at all, you know that like this mana issue is his main issue. And so to have it cost way more at level 1 is just, I think it's going to make him feel pretty bad. I don't play him a lot, so I don't know if this is going to like completely kill it, but it's going to make it way more annoying to like keep up your mana. It's going to make it harder to like keep up the lane domination. You might use all your mana, like you will be using your mana faster. They also nerfed the Nether Toxin duration, which is going to nerf this hero's farm speed, which was already pretty bad. So I don't know if these are enough to completely remove the hero from the meta, but they're pretty significant to me. He's got some other changes. I don't think they're that notable. I think it's kind of corrosive skin junk is like really weird. Didn't want to really talk about it. All right, my boy Winter Wyvern. Love this hero. He did get some nerfs. He's less tanky now. Not that he was tanky before, so like now he's like kind of borderline like squishy territory. His arc to burn duration got decreased to early levels, and his cold embrace cast range got nerfed a bit. I think this hero is still playable. I don't think these are that big a deal at all. So yeah, these are like slight nerfs, probably worthwhile, but didn't kill the hero. Should still see some of it, even if it's just for me. Okay, so Tiny, one of the most picked heroes of the Arlington Major. His mana cost on toss was increased by 20, so his whole combo goes up 20 mana. That's a nerf. Cast range on the toss, which is like the whole toss back strat for the most part, is why this is important. Got nerfed by 100, so nerfs to both of those aspects. And he's got this grow thing going on now, where he's got more damage, but like it increases your attack speed at 30% across the board, including items and spell bonuses. So you can't just like giga buff up your Tiny's attack speed. The Moon Shard would be like weird because you're buying an item and then just gets flat nerfed by 30% just based on your ultimate ability. So I don't know if this just completely kills the hero because his late game potential is going to be a lot worse now. I'm not really sure. Maybe this just shoves him back into like the very, very combo focused mid. You can get the Echo Saber because that's not going to ignore that's not going to be affected by this attack speed change. And then you're all about that initial burst, or even like a magic damage tiny where you're not dependent on your hits, but like, you know, E-Blade Dagon or something. I think we saw that in one game at Arlington. That was pretty cool. So, yeah, maybe it's just going to kind of destroy the hero, though. We'll see. I mean, pros like this hero a lot, so I don't know what it takes to get them to stop picking it. Maybe this is it. All right, and the last hero, Zeus, they nerfed the Heavenly Jump duration, and they nerfed the cooldown, sorry, and then they nerfed the effect. But if you get the shard, or sorry, there's a talent now that decreases the cooldown back to what it was before. So if you want to take that talent, you can. But then the slow is not 2.5 seconds at max level. It's 1.6 seconds at all levels now. So that's a pretty reasonable nerf. And the slow is not 100, it's 80. So I think it's a pretty reasonable nerf. I'm glad they didn't like just completely demolish it or remove the ability. And then they did nerf his damage by 1% on the shard. Hopefully this doesn't kill the hero. I like this hero, but I do think these nerfs are justified. So hopefully it's still pickable after this. All right, and now for the fun stuff. So I'm probably going to jump into demo mode just to show you guys some of this stuff. So the first one is Brewmaster Ags they reworked. So first thing is this nerfs like the Ags timing and the Ags refresher timing. So you can't just always have your Primal split up anymore. I think that's a good change. I'm not a Brew player. I just think that shit's annoying. It's also not interesting. Like if you're just your ultimate, then like you're not playing like your hero's normal abilities at all, which is just like kind of weird to me. So I kind of like this change on that sense. But let's take a look at the Primal Companion real quick as I type in the word I'm saying and not the word I mean to type. So the way this ability works is you get one of your pandas from your ult, and you can choose which one. So you have your Scepter, right? And then you have to be level 6. Actually, you probably don't have to be level 6. Obviously, you're going to be level 6. And then you change your Drunken Brawler stance, and then you can summon... If you're on the Earth Brawler, you can summon the Green Panda. And he's just permanent uptime. Not permanent, like 20-second cooldown on the ability, and then he's always with you. It's like a summon. And if you change it, you can resummon, and you can just use all these heroes' abilities. I believe the cooldowns are like nerfed by half or something, but I think that's pretty cool. I really like this change. I think this is, and like you can use your hero's other abilities in combination with like one of your pandas. So I think this is super cool. I don't know if it's like busted or not, but I really like this change. I'm excited to see people pick it up and kind of see what new possibilities this opens up for the hero. Really cool change to me. And yeah, let's just be specific that if the Bruling moves further than 1600 range away, it is silenced and slowed by 50%, which is nice that you can't just rat with it. And if the Bruling is killed, the ability doesn't cool down for 70 seconds. And all the Brewling's abilities have doubled cooldown when summoned with the Companion. So, really interesting ability. I kind of like it. Don't know how good it'll be, but I hope we see it. I think it's really interesting. Alright, this next one is a meme. There's this new ability for Centaur called Hitch a Ride. This is hilarious. Alright. So, this is his Aghanim Scepter. Aghanim Scepter, new ability. You need an ally. I have a little ally here. I'll make a little dummy target. And the way this works is you hitch a ride, and then your ally can actually attack. Okay, I can't click the unit while it's in this form. Hold on. Once it stops. So if I'm having this attack, if this guy's attacking, and then I hitch the ride, he still attacks while you're moving. There's like a certain attack range. You know, he's like out of it, and he's back into it. So, I think this is hilarious. And then obviously it works with like his ult, so like you can like kind of run somebody away if they're stunned, I guess. It's like a save. I think that's hilarious. I mean, this ability is just a meme. It's just a meme. I like it. I don't know if anybody will ever pick it up in a competitive match, but that's hilarious, so had to bring that up to you guys. This next change is Doom Ags, reworked Scepter. Now it's an AoE around the target, and you can self-target. Or, I should say, or you can self-target. You can't use it twice, unless you have a refresher, and then you can. That's kind of... So, now, if you have your Aghanims, you can use it on yourself, and it's an AoE Doom around you. Full effect. So you can use it on multiple heroes, unless, of course, they run away from you. That's pretty dope, I think. and then if you use it on a target, they are AoE doomed and affect allies around them. So what a cool concept. It doesn't break anymore, so like he's not as good against like heroes that need to be broken. You could still do the refresher shenanigans, but I think this is really cool. It looks awesome. We'll see how viable it is. I saw Faith Beyond pick it up in a pub earlier today. I didn't watch the whole game. I don't know if it worked out really well, but people are trying it out. This is a pretty cool change, and it looks awesome. So what's not to like? You cannot use it on an ally, though. Only yourself or an enemy. Alright, this next change... Ogre Magi, guys. I didn't bring this up in the buffs. Maybe I should have, but I was kind of saving it for this section as I lose my space. Base damage increased by 20. Base armor decreased by only 1. His base health regen was nerfed a lot. He basically went from like having crazy, incredible base health regen, excuse my lisp, to only normal, not even good health regen. But base damage increased by 20. So, I don't know. I kind of want to try this hero as a position 1. I don't know if this is a meme, guys. Check this out. For Ogre, we're position 1. Let's say we're buying carry items. Stay with me here. Stay with me. Stay with me. And now we take Bloodlust level 1, and we're CSing like a carry with 20 extra base damage. We're hitting for 76 before Quelling Blade. Look at the creep control you have here. Like, how do you miss CS doing this? And like, alright, like, what if I go to level 7? Let's just say this is my skill build at level 7, guys. And let's give me Treads and a Maelstrom. Stay with me, stay with me. Are we memeing? Are we memeing? Check this out. I mean, come on. Come on. This is kind of cool, right? I feel like I'm going to try it out. It might work terribly, but like, you know, look at his talents. Look at his talents, right? We've got some... I don't really care about this. Probably Fire Blast cooldown, right? We want to lock somebody down while we're hitting them. 80 damage. Bloodlust attack speed or strength. And then Fire Blast chance on attack. I mean, come on, guys. I know we're memeing a little bit, but like, you know, let's just, you know, if we just hit stuff. Like, this is funny. Like, this is great. I don't know. Maybe it's a meme, but 20 damage is 20 damage. You know, and his animation is pretty good. So, you know, let's hope. Let's cross our fingers. You know, 20 damage. That's crazy. Alright, the next cool change is Clockwork Aghanims. They've reworked the Scepter. It doesn't do the refresh stuff. It, like, amps all of his other abilities. So Battery Assault damages and stuns everything in the radius, not just, like, one random unit at a time. Power Cogs increases your attack speed by 250. That's kind of memey. And Rocket Flare has its cooldown decreased to 3 seconds. Not by 3 seconds. 3 seconds. And shoots 2 additional flares to either side. And increases hookshot stun, radius, and duration by 50%. And cooldown 50 seconds. I mean, come on. That sounds awesome. I don't know, like, what sounds more awesome than hitting a bunch of enemies all at once inside your cogs with Battery Assault and hitting them at 250 attack speed. Like, what? Like, let's just go to level 18. We'll give ourselves this axe, and we'll level everything up. Let's say we've got, you know, Rocket. I don't care about Rocket Flare cooldown. Does that affect it, actually? Wait, so if I overclock, it's 3 seconds. And if I take this talent... No, it's still 3 seconds. Alright, well, that's kind of sucky. Well, whatever. Battery Assault damage, let's say. You know, let's get a little enemy ogre action, you know. We'll just give this guy a heart just for fun. You know, if we, like, overclock, and then we Q, and then we... I mean, look at this. You're attacking fast. Got these, like, AoE stuff. You stun forever now. That's pretty cool. I don't know if you can, like, rush this item because of how good it is. It seems really good. So just wanted to point out that change out. I think it's really cool. I hope we do see it. I hope it's strong enough to just be picked up and be effective. It seems kind of funny, and it seems like it could be really strong. So we'll see. So next change is for Lena. Her Agnum Scepter got changed. She no longer has like that AoE ulti stuff. She has a Flame Cloak, which gives her flying abilities and amps her magic resistance and spell damage. And like, I don't even know if you need to change your build. You could just buy it for the mobility. But like, let's say you're like botsing and you're, you know, normal. Let's just say you're going totally normal Lena items, right? And then you have your Agnums. And, you know, you have to fit this gold in somehow. So I'm not saying it's amazing. But like, you just fly. And you have these stacks, and you're running around, and you're flying. Like, increased mobility matters a lot in this game, guys. So, like, to be able to, like, fly, like Doctor Strange, and go invis, I don't know. I think this is pretty cool. I don't know if it's, like, viable to be picked up, but I think it seemed kind of cool. So I wanted to show it to you guys. And the last change I'll mention doesn't require a demo, really, but they gave Venomancer a new shard called Latent Toxicity, and his old Gale is now a talent, a level 20 talent. Gale creates 2 plague words, and it doesn't increase the cast range anymore. So Latent Toxicity applies a weak poison that slows by 10% and damages by 20 per second for 7 seconds. Not that big a deal, right? Not a lot of damage, not a little slow. If this poison is dispelled in any way, the target will receive 300 damage and be stunned for 2 seconds. You know, cooldown 20 seconds. Oh, it's a projectile. But is it targeted? Okay, I actually didn't test this out yet. Alright, let's test it out. So we have our shard ability. Okay, it's point targeted. And so now, if I Greaves myself... Oh, wait. It wore off. Yeah. So, I think this is hilarious because I'm a Venom enjoyer. My bad. But, you know, you have a way... It's basically like a fuck you to anybody who tries to dispel all your other shit. Because, like, what Venom hates is when you use all your stuff on somebody and they just dispel themselves. So this is like... It makes the hero not quite as hard countered by dispels. I think that's really cool. I don't know how good it is, but I just like it because it's a big, like, fuck you to heroes with dispels. It says, no, you cannot dispel me. And it kind of, like, matters, too, in terms of... It's not just a fuck you, but it's like... A lot of times when you're against a Veno, you're like, okay, I need to dispel his stuff so that I don't, like, tick down and, like, die or get to 0 HP, right? If you want to continue fighting. But at the same time, it's like, well, if I dispel myself now, I'm going to stun myself now. So if it's in a team fight, that's not good. And if it's not in a team fight and it's after the team fight's over and you need to get that dispel off before it kills you, well, 300 damage is a lot of damage. Like, are you going to use it before you get to below 300 HP? You know... It could turn into, like, dying to the Veno poison or dying to the latent toxicity. So, I just thought that was really interesting. That is my patch note summary. Hopefully you guys found that educational and or interesting. Sorry if it went on a little too long. Sorry if I didn't touch on, you know, the changes to your favorite hero. That's just kind of what I saw on my initial read-through. I'm going to go try the new patch out right now. Hope you guys do too. And I'll see you in the next video. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like my channel, please give it a subscription. If you like the video, give it a like. If you have any questions, I do read the comments, so, you know, let me know. And if you want to be coached by me, check the link in the description to my Discord. There's all the information for how to sign up there, and I'll see you in the next video.